Becoming a father is a life-changing event. New dads experience excitement and face many often unanticipated new challenges. But most books, workshops, and support groups are geared toward the needs of moms and the perspective of new moms, and so fathers and newborns and toddlers are usually left to navigate the territory without much specific guidance or support. So what does it take to be an awesome dad? I'm Danny Singley, and this is Parent Savers, episode 20.
Faster than a speeding toddler.
Sit still for just a minute.
Can soothe boo-boos with a gentle kiss.
Would you get down from there?
Able to clean poopy bottoms in a single swipe.
Oh, what did you eat?
Turning frazzled mommies and daddies into procreators of peace and harmony.
Ah, quit touching me.
It's Parent Savers, empowering new parents everywhere.
Welcome to Parent Savers, the coolest online show about parenting, and we are broadcasting from the Birth Education Center in San Diego. I'm your guest host for today and frequent panelist. My name is Owen Hemsath, and if you like tech, you're going to love our new mobile apps where you can take the Parent Savers show with you wherever you go. Now available in the Amazon Android market and the iTunes App Store, you can listen to your favorite episode in the car or at the gym and get instant access to our most recent episodes and our social networking sites. As a matter of fact, go to Facebook right now, look up Parent Savers, and like us, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Now, as a big fan of the show myself, I also urge you to visit our website at parentsavers.com and subscribe to the Parent Savers newsletter. It's an awesome newsletter. We love it a lot at my house, featuring exclusive behind-the-scenes content from the show, special giveaways, discounts, and more. Do I qualify for the giveaways? I hope so. I want some free stuff. Visit our website, parentsavers.com, for more information. Again, my name is Owen. I'm a video marketer and web designer in Oceanside. I'm also a new dad. Benjamin, my son, was born 4 weeks ago, and I also have a 14-month-old named Jameson and a 5-year-old named Kanan. And he just started kindergarten. Today I'm joined by some of my favorite people and close friends. We've got Johnner, Colin, and Benjamin here. You guys want to say hi?
Yeah, hi, I'm John O'Real. I'm 38. I'm a freelance writer, and I have 3 boys as well, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Hi, my name is Colin Rand. I'm 32 years old, and I have 2 very exciting and energetic boys. Lucas is 5, and Jackson, or we call him Jackie, he's 2.
Hey, my name is Benjamin. I'm 26. I run a business in Oceanside. I have one 2-month-old adorable little girl, and that's why I'm so short on sleep right now, Owen. Thanks for having me.
No, I know, and I got you up early today for this.
I know,
and
dragged me out of bed, man.
And I know Colin and Benjamin very well. We've known each other for a long time. John or I've known for a few hours, and you seem like an amazing guy. So
You too,
I'm stoked to have you guys here, and I'm pretty excited to dig into the show today. But before we start, here's a word from Parent Savers expert Jennifer Shear with some tips on how to handle the emotional side of parenting.
Hello, Parent Savers. I'm Dr. Jennifer Shear, a clinical psychologist with a practice in San Diego. One of my specialties is working with women during pregnancy and throughout the transition to motherhood. Today's segment is about common adjustments that couples go through with a new baby. When baby is born, it is never again just you and me. The dyad expands to a triad. There is often a sense of loss, even as there is simultaneous excitement about growing your family. It is helpful to remember that mothers and fathers often experience this transition differently and at different times. Make the transition conscious by talking about it. When baby is born, there is a healthy and yet temporary preoccupation on caregiving baby. It is perfectly normal for new moms and dads to be focused on strengthening and defining these roles for themselves, and they are often different. Some men are natural caretakers and want to be very involved in the process. Other men may become very focused on their role as a financial provider. Try to think about where your partner gains esteem for this new role as mother or father, and try to understand that if the focus or attention on each other is not what you're used to, things are still fine. Rather than experiencing these changes as rejection or an indicator that something is wrong, it shows the enormous energy you are both putting into defining brand new parts of yourself, and you're doing it under minimal sleep. And speaking of minimal sleep, sexual intimacy and sleep deprivation are not a very good mix. So try to be gentle with yourselves and trust that you will find a natural rhythm with one another after the hard work of learning your baby's rhythms are firmly established. Thanks for tuning in to Parent Savers. It is my hope that having a greater understanding of common couple adjustments will help to normalize some of the changes that come with the new baby. And keep listening for more episodes on how to thrive as a new parent.
Today on Parent Savers, our guest Danny Singley is here. Danny is a psychologist and head honcho at newdadclass.com, where he teaches parenting classes for men. It's a basic training course, right, for new dads. Danny, welcome to the show. Hey, how did you come up with the idea for a new dad's class?
Well, as with most psychologists, I think it's all about me, and it really began when I was
your mother?
Yeah. So that was, research is me search, and it started when my wife was pregnant with our older boy. I've got two boys, 5 and 8 now, and when we went through the process of taking classes and checking out resources for new expectant parents, it was all about mom, and the message I got was, supporting her is the best thing that you can do even when you have a baby. And so being a fairly entitled white male, I thought to myself, I think I have something to offer directly to my baby. And he was born, and that turned out to be the case, but I sort of turned around and said, all right, I want to come up with some ways to help dads to be directly involved with their babies as well as their partners.
No, were you super confident during the pregnancy? I mean, I was certainly like, hey, I'm going to raise this kid like, they used to live in the jungle. Like, it didn't occur to me to take a class. Were you super confident, or did you recognize that there were some weaknesses in your own knowledge about how to handle a new child?
Depended on what day you asked me,
yeah,
and about what elements of it. One of the things that did keep happening was even good friends of ours and family members would come, and my wife and I would be sitting there, and they would look at her and say, "You're going to flower as a woman. It's going to be the most amazing chapter of your life." And they'd look at me and be like, "You're screwed. You will never surf again." And so sometimes I would get stuff like that. It's a joke, but there are a lot of ways that men get that message about what parenthood is going to be like, and thankfully that has not been the case.
Sure. Interesting. Now, help me out here. What kind of things do you cover in basic training for new dads?
So the basic training itself it consists of 2 classes. One is the expectant dads class, and in that one we have a group of between 6 and 10 dads that come down to the class, and they're all in their 3rd trimester, and we go over a series of points. One of them is what I call the expectant dads checklist, which is things that expectant dads, typically by virtue of socialization, just never do. I make them do them. And so there are things like, set up a weekly, I call it the summit meeting check-in with their partner to keep the relationship strong and be proactive about communication. I'm a shrink, and so it's all about talking.
Like between the husband and the wife
Exactly.
type of situation?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because marital satisfaction typically takes a big hit for the first 8 to 12 months after the birth, but there's a lot you can do to
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, I know. Hey, the candy store closes and everything changes, right? It's other, and the other things like, go interview the pediatrician, take point, interview mom. What do you want from a pediatrician? Everybody's super focused on the birth, but not so much on afterwards. And so dad can, cowboy up, interview her, go do the first round of interviewing a pediatrician, and then come back and do that as well.
I love to hear you say that because I got very proactive with the pediatrician, and at the point now where my wife asked me to leave the room because I'm like, can you show me the study? I'm like, it looks like some big pharmaceutical company paid for all the advertisement in here, doctor. What do you have to say about that?
Well, see, you're the enlightened dad. So so we cover things like that in the expectant dads class. We also get down to real brass tacks, like folks want to know about cord blood banking and getting a doula or having a midwife or daddy nesting.
That's great.
And then we hit the actual birth, and then we have the 4th trimester, and we have a veteran dad that's already been through the class, comes back for the last 30 minutes of it. So he's gone through the class, he's had the kiddo, the dust and placenta have settled, and now he can say, here's what our birth plan was, here's how the birth actually went down, and here's what it's like for me these days. And typically, it's not Dr. Singley's inspired brilliance that they want to talk about on the evaluation. It's hearing from veteran dads and connecting with other dads that are in the same situation.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat with Owen, though, is I find myself to be very proactive, and sometimes I get to the point where my opinion becomes a prideful thing. But I've definitely seen people surpass my proud points, and how do you deal with that? What have you done to deal with sometimes, for lack of a better term, an unruly dad?
You mean dads that come in and it's sort of a my way or the highway?
I'm going to show Danny what a real dad is.
Oh, he has no idea what being a dad is. This is the way to be a dad, and you go, okay, you good luck with that kind of thing. you know?
Yeah. Typically the ones that I have found to be the most challenging are the dads who, for whatever reason, they just don't seem to want to be engaged in the process. And you can't make somebody want that.
Kind of like, my dad wasn't, he worked for 18 hours a day in the coal mines, and, that's the way I'm going to do it. And that's I turned out fine, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And there are plenty of vestiges of that sort of old school Ozzie and Harriet mentality. It's one of the things referred to as the new dad's generation gap at this point. Stereotypically, new dads of this generation had dads that weren't very engaged until, Timmy was old enough to throw a ball, and he would go off, and his role in the whole affair was being a pocket and an earner. But these days, society expects dads to be very involved, very emotionally available right from the get-go, and even with a baby. And so in the stress of adjusting, because there is some stress for any adjustment, doesn't have to be overwhelming, though.
Right.
If dad goes on autopilot and what his model was and disengages as opposed to really staying in there, he's going to get dinged. It's going to be a
Well, it's an
problem.
interesting thing that you bring up about society expecting, because I turn on the TV and I see dads are a bunch of dummies.
Yeah.
And stuck in the mini blinds, kind of like, wife is spoon feeding him stuff, you know what I mean? And so there aren't any media models.
Where do you think that comes from? That this need now for dads to be and feel so engaged comes from? Is it a reaction to maybe a lot of dads not being there for us, or?
Could be. I mean, social tides will turn, but it is. There's a very prevalent stereotype in popular media of the sort of bumbling dad who either dad's absent or dad just can't get it right. And I think some of it goes back to really old and I would say inaccurate stereotypes about, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And I hear over and over again from dads, especially expectant dads, I feel so bad for when we have the new baby, there's going to be nothing that I can do. But the reality is we can do everything that moms can do with one important exception, and we're hardware challenged, and that's just the case. But we can swaddle, we can soothe, we can, give mom. There's so many things that we can do, and sometimes it takes a while for the light bulb to go on for dad to realize, you know what, I can do this.
Well, it's interesting what you say about, women are from Venus and whatnot, because science has really shown us. I mean, the rover landed on the red planet, and there was no sign of beer or ESPN, so we know men are not from Mars.
Yeah, you were saying something about like being emotionally involved. I'm not a super emotional kind of guy. I am very involved. I change diaper. I do all that kind of stuff except for feeding. I can't do that. But what do you mean by being emotionally involved? I'm not, like I said, I'm not a super emotional guy. I didn't cry when I left for work again after the baby was born. My wife totally bawled her eyes out, like 3 days straight.
To quickly address the emotional availability piece, it is something different that's expected of men in general these days, but partners. If you look at postpartum issues generally, when folks think about postpartum depression, they think about a weepy woman. But just as an example of emotional differences, postpartum depression, depending on what study you look at, between 4 and 25% of men have daddy baby blues as well. But the emotional expression of it looks very different than it does with women, as opposed to being, if you sit back and close your eyes and imagine somebody being intensely sad, you're going to have a generally feminized understanding of it. They're going to be crying, they're going to be rocking back and forth and so forth. And men tend to get irritable and angry or isolate or not take as much joy. And when that plays out for new dads, mom and dad can just not understand what's going on. Right. You don't seem the same as you have been. And so being more emotionally available doesn't mean emoting a whole lot more. It does mean allowing yourself the space to say, okay, there's something going on with me, and to be able to go communicate it.
So what are some of the techniques that you share with a dad to take back to his partner in the relationship sense of, because there's a distance there, you've got now this baby in between you and your wife, in my case. And so what are some techniques that you teach a dad to take back to the home to, re-engage that relationship?
So the model I like to use is of a triangle. If you think about the 3 points on a triangle, and you've got between mom and dad and then from parents to the baby, typically immediately after birth, mom and dad are hugely focused on the legs of the triangle going to the baby. And I remind them that the baby's only there because of that leg of the triangle between mom and dad. That's what got things off. A lot of times that can feel like a want to instead of a have to keep things solid, because the better the relationship is, the better it is for baby as well as for the individual parents. And so 2 things that I tell them to do always, actually 3 things. As I mentioned, setting up a weekly 15-20-minute check-in, the summit meeting. So, and let me tell you, no dad in the history of the universe has ever gone home and said, okay, honey, let's take a regular 15-minute per week time out and check in.
Right.
Not to do family business, not who's going to get the diapers and how are you going to go over here and this. It's just to say, look, here's what it's like to be me. Here's between my ears and my own skin, this is what it's like.
Some couch time.
Yeah, exactly. And just sort of checking in on that leg of the triangle. Another one is to get social support.
Yeah.
Men tend to be terrible social chairs. Typically,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with the onslaught of sexist comments. Your men really, like, we tend to get told where to go and who to hang out with.
Right.
But it's not fair to expect that mom and dad are going to be each other's sole source of social support. So going out and, doing some mindless interactive with other guys or, whatever it is, you go get
We
that
need
support.
more of that.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, Ben and I used to hang out all the time, and then our babies came right next to each other, and it's kind of
It's
like
zero activity now.
Yeah.
We need to go get a movie and beer. Something.
that's what I'm talking about, and a steak.
And meat and beer. Absolutely.
And one thing with the wife, we have our couch time, our one-on-one time, but we have to make sure it's not like at the end of the day when it's like,
Yeah.
it's got to be when like nap time or something when we're not exhausted and still excited to see each other.
Mm-hmm.
My
wife and I are big calendar geeks, and so we've got Outlook and Google Calendar and a shared Google Calendar. And one thing that you can do is to set a recurring Monday morning reminder, which says, all right, my schedule changes. It won't always be, Tuesday at noon. The reminder is when you check in and say, okay, when is a reasonable time this week that we can do our 15, 20-minute check-in?
Right.
Good tip. What do you see in your classes that some common themes that maybe dads brings up of things they're afraid of or issues they want to talk about, and how do you deal with them?
For dads that have never really had much experience with babies, what they're most comfortable owning up to being worried about is, I'm afraid I'm going to drop the kid.
Right.
I don't know how to I don't know how to swaddle. I don't this, and it takes them a while to warm up to. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to earn enough. How am I going to handle work-life stress? Typically, they haven't thought through some of the things that really do tend to come to a head, which are things like we disagree about when baby should be out of the room.
Right.
We're not on the same...
Co-sleeping, stuff like that.
We're not on the same page about letting baby cry it out.
Right.
Things along those lines.
So it sort of starts out with very basic logistics, and then kind of mushrooms into talking to.
Turns out those
issues.
logistics are nested in a larger social context.
My first swaddles I tied in knots. I was like, no, the baby cannot move. I did it right, and then some of the issues about crying it out, because I'm a big let the baby cry it out, you know what I mean? This is my house, you know what I mean? So, and I wasn't open to conversation. It was like, no, I'm dad. I'm king of my household type of situation. And these are things that engaged my wife and I. I could have really used the class or used some of this information in the very beginning to at least recognize that there are going to be issues.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's part of the trick. So as a psychologist that focuses on men's issues, finding ways to approach guys in a way that doesn't get them freaked out and saying, oh man, this shrink's talking about feelings again. That's half the battle, but typically the issues remain largely the same once guys kind of get into it.
That's really fantastic stuff. Now, when we come back, we'll talk more specifically about the type of skill sets that Danny helps out with and how to get involved with a new dad class. Welcome back to Parent Savers. Today we're talking with psychologist Danny Singley of newdadclass.com. And we're talking about parenting skills for new dads. Danny, what about this adjustment to parenthood for the dad? I mean, you go from being a bro, to being a dad, to being daddy. I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you teach men to deal with that?
Well, I think we maintain our broness postpartum, first of all, but with an addition to the crew. There's so many factors that go into a dad's adjustment, psychological, social, biological. We can't hit them all, but my focus is on the ones that dads can learn as individually, as part of a couple, and as a parent. And so I think of it in sort of a systems perspective. One, there's between dad's ears. What's he thinking about? How's he managing stress? The second is as part of a partner, in the relationship. And then finally, it's sort of in the larger social context. What's he doing? Oftentimes new dads will wait until stress just gets too much. I think of it as sort of the tension when you pull a bow back.
Right.
And it's to be proactive about getting their stress managed, and that can look totally different from dad to dad. For some, it's I'm going to go bowling, or somebody else, it's I just want some me time to go relax. Other folks will actually go do things like, I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go do yoga, or I'm going to surf, or some of them really want to do relaxation, like they'll sit and do deep breathing or things like that as stress management.
Decompress a little bit, especially after working.
Well, the thing that you're going to see is it's about staying ahead of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's about not being reactive. It's about being proactive.
So what about someone like in my case? I work from home, so I'm with my kids all day. I may not see them constantly because I'm in the office, but I'm at home, so I help out there. I help out afterwards with dinner and putting them to bed, and then my day is done because socially, after becoming a dad from a bro, I've lost my broness, and I'm going to open up a little bit. I've lost my broness, and my friendships have kind of dissipated because my goals changed. So what can I do in that social aspect of being in a confinement
Not
of
be
a
so
family?
girly.
Not necessarily be so girly, but
more broy.
Right. But in the general sense of I don't have an outlet necessarily. Everything is family related
kids,
at this point. It's kids, and it's wife, and it's sleep and work. That's it.
The social situation, it's going to change no matter what. One thing that's very common for new dads, which typically they don't see coming, is a sense of guilt about, here's how much time mom is needing to spend, and all the nursing and all the sleepless nights and this and that. And oftentimes dads do not feel entitled to asking, hey, is it okay if I go have some time out, because that can feel really selfish. I would say it's a have to that tends to get dropped down to a want to that doesn't get addressed. And so for you specifically, the question I would ask you is, in your mind, when I ask you, who's somebody that you would really like to hang out with that you haven't hung out in a long time? Does somebody come to mind?
No, nobody comes to mind.
As he's looking directly at me.
Guys, there's a bromance brewing here. You guys say you're not bros anymore, but
it's been there for 20 years.
Almost, yeah.
But the reason why I ask is that it's not the case that the opportunity isn't there. The case is that it just takes something. It takes more to actually get out and stoke those relationships.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because again, the media teaches us that dads are these bumbling, overweight fools, and it's like I sit there and I want to protect my kids and my wife, and so asking, hey, can I go bowling, or hey, can I go to the driving range, is kind of like I feel like I'm the 10-year-old, scuffling my feet. Hey, is it all right if maybe later tonight me and I need to get out. I need to just get away and decompress for a little bit, and it's nice to know that other men are having that same situation, and they just need to go out and be social and be bros.
Absolutely, yeah. I established that from the very beginning, Owen. What you're talking about is, instead of asking, we just set up times. Amy and I, from the very beginning, it was like, hey, Saturday, I'm going for a motorcycle ride, or this, or I'm going with Owen, golfing, whatever. Yeah. You just got to step from the beginning, I think.
Well, and there's the counterpoint to that is, oftentimes that getting social support and getting out of the house and connecting with other people can fall off radar for mom too. And so to the extent that you can be proactive and an advocate for mom to go out and get her social support needs met, so even if she's in a space of, no, I can't, there's just so much to do, if you can say, listen, I'm going to post up, I got the baby, you're good to go out and go meet up with some of your friends. That's something that dads can do that's very concrete, which typically we do not do.
Let me tell you, I got on Facebook and I called her friends, and I'm like, you ladies want to come over? You know what I mean? And there's like 4 women in our house with newborns. Your wife was there. We had a couple of friends there, and I just kind of quietly, okay. And my wife, and let me tell you something. Bow, 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 bow.
No, that's great. It is, but I'm going to keep coming back to it, being proactive about the social support piece, but also how you deal with communication, because so much changes after the baby's born. And if all we're really focused on is baby's need, which is important, baby's needs, and how are we going to, manage baby, but don't communicate with each other about, hey, I'm really stressing out about handling the work-life stuff, or it's tough for me when I come home and, you just hand me the baby and then and go off. I mean, these are understandable, but oftentimes people don't talk proactively about it. And when they do talk, it's because they've really gotten stressful and they start hurling things at each other instead of, talking in an adult assertive way.
Well, that much poop changes a man.
It's true. No, it's true.
It's a fact. It's science.
It's like Vietnam.
Getting used to all the
colostrum. Colostrum will do that too.
Absolutely.
Colostrum and napalm. I think actually napalm is made from colostrum.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. They're
same
in
texture.
Same food group, certainly.
And it sounds like you're already answering my question already by being proactive about what a guy can do to be more involved with his new family. Be proactive. It sounds like you're answering it already. Just go out there.
Once again, I pretty much never think of the new dad in a vacuum. The new dad's part of a system, part of a partnership, part of a family system. One of the things that when I talk to moms, it sounds one way. When I talk to dads, it sounds another way. A lot of it's still basically the same. One of the very, very best things that mom can do, and this goes to that, sort of fat, bumbling, couch potato dad stereotype, is I tell moms to give dads specific, concrete ways to be involved with baby, and do not expect dad to be a mind reader in terms of what you want or how to go about things.
So I need you to change the baby's diapers in the morning as opposed to I need you to help out more.
Correct.
And put it in this trash can.
Oh, man. Yeah, not in the kitchen.
Exactly.
You guys have a specific trash can for diapers?
Oh, yeah.
4.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I think these are – I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's great tips. But a lot of us, either because for other circumstances or we just don't live in San Diego, aren't going to be able to take your class. So what are some tips for folks that are listening to maybe kind of tune into this kind of new dads network or to get some of the benefits of your class?
Well, so some of what we've talked about, which is if you want to optimize the adjustment to parenthood, think through it in terms of me as an individual. What makes me me? What brings meaning to my life outside of being just a parent? And how do I keep that in the mix after the birth of the baby? But then also, how can I not just stay involved with the baby, how can I stay directly involved with my partner? Because that, and again, we're not mind readers. We can't know that specifically. And so I would say sort of top to bottom, it's one, make sure that you are managing your stress and you're staying ahead of it and you're being proactive. Men tend not to have the vocabulary. We're not well socialized to say, I was feeling rather dismayed this morning when you didn't let me change the diaper or something along these lines.
The violin starts playing.
Yeah, but we tend to have an awareness when. If you ask, how do you feel? Good. How do you feel? Bad. It's not, I'm very concerned. And so we don't typically have that vocabulary to express it to somebody else. And it's not really important that you're falling on the floor having a drama emotion fest. But what is important is to stay ahead of concern and say, I don't know, there's just something going on. And just so to keep mom in the loop and then do something about it. Because it's not going to get any better if you don't start trying to get that social support. Start being proactive about your own stress management and bring people in. Go out, be active about, I want to go, see this friend or, there's something I'm interested in. Push past the I have to, and letting all the want tos go.
Thanks to Danny Singley for coming down and just rocking this dad episode. I learned a lot of really concrete stuff, and that's fantastic. So thank you so much. And if you're out there listening and want more information on Danny, please visit our website at parentsavers.com and visit the episode page with Danny Singley, episode 20. And you can also visit Danny's website at www.newdadsclass.com. Before we wrap up today's episode, here's a new segment on Parent Savers called Parenting Oops. This is your chance to tell a funny story about a parenting mistake or oops that you recently made, kind of like America's Funniest Home Videos for Internet Radio. Colin, you had a story you were telling me about earlier.
Yeah. This is one of the fun stories that I like to tell about my oldest son, Lucas. Now, Lucas, if you know Lucas, you know how intelligent he is and how curious he is. I mean, he will ask a question to a complete stranger if he thinks he's going to get a logical answer. And at one point, I was helping run a restaurant, and one of my employees, it was a slow night, so I had the family come in, and my wife and my oldest son sat there, and he asked a question to one of my waitresses. Now, let me preface this a little bit. Lucas is he's above and beyond where he needs to be in asking questions, and especially about the differences between men and women, mommies and daddies. And so one of the questions that we answered was, women have breasts and men have chests, and that's how you decipher it. And we tried to do very specific, so it wasn't a wrong thing to do or a wrong thing to say to anybody. Women have breasts, men have chests. And so this waitress that works for me, I would say she's a full-figured woman. Okay, and then that's going to be, yes. And I'll try and stay as appropriate as possible. He decided that he was going to ask this waitress about the difference and why she is a woman. And he goes, "Do you have a breast?" And my wife and I looked at each other like, oh my gosh. And we said to him, "Lucas, you cannot say that to people like that." And he goes, "Oh, excuse me, do you have a breast?" And he just thought it was impolite for him not to say excuse me and to get her attention, and that was the incorrect thing to do. And so what we did is we had to find ourselves that we had to reevaluate how we were talking to him about the anatomy or specifics, whether it's, women have breasts and men have chests, or fat and skinny, that you can't just talk about those things to anybody, that in an ethical and a societal way, you don't talk about those things just in public. You can talk to mommy and daddy about it, but not just anybody. So that was one of those oops.
If you have a parenting oops you'd like to share, you can call our Parent Savers hotline at 619-866-4775 or email us and we'll feature it on an upcoming episode. That wraps up today's episodes. Be sure to check out the Parent Savers website for more great episodes, the Parent Savers blog, and great reviews on our parenting products. Also, join us on Facebook. Just search for Parent Savers. Coming up next, we're talking about co-parenting, what to do when parents disagree. Thanks for listening to Parent Savers, empowering new parents everywhere.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
Hey, mamas. Don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording, so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.